Hey everyone, it's Amy Lynn Durham. Welcome back to Create Magic at Work. Today, I'm bringing you a special release of one of the most talked about episodes we've ever aired, a deep and powerful conversation with my friend and colleague Rivka, who's an executive coach and licensed psychotherapist. I'm doing this because we're closing out Mental Health Awareness Month with this episode and taking the conversation forward because mental well-being and leadership is not seasonal, it's foundational. In this episode, Rivka and I unpack the real difference between coaching versus therapy, how to tell which one might serve you best right now, and why so many founders and leaders tie their self-worth to their work and how to stop. It's insightful, it's supportive, and I hope it gives you the clarity or validation you didn't know you needed today. As you listen, I invite you to take one micro step for your mental health. Maybe that means reaching out to a coach or therapist. Maybe it means asking yourself what kind of support would help you feel more grounded and whole. Whatever that looks like, this is your magical sign. Take a deep, calming breath and join us in the conversation. Hey everyone, welcome to Create Magic at Work. Today's going to be really cool because we are going to get into some pretty juicy topics that I think a lot of people are curious about, and it'll be a really informative episode today. So the guest I've invited onto the show today is Rivka Geoghegan. She's an executive coach with over 2 decades of experience as a clinical psychotherapist. So note, executive coach and psychotherapist. That's going to be something, believe it or not, that's interesting that we talk about today. She offers a comprehensive approach to professional growth, blending forward thinking, goal-oriented coaching with the insight of depth-oriented psychology. So Rivka helps CEOs and leaders navigate the entrepreneurial journey and consults with VC firms, creating programs to support the well-being of their startup ecosystems. Rivka, I met at the UC Berkeley Executive Coaching Conference for all of the alumni coaches. And what was interesting is she was leading a talk that was explaining the difference between therapy and coaching. And I'm like, okay, we need to talk about this and we need to share this with everybody that's listening. And we're going to get into all that today. And we're also going to get into helping everyone have a little bit more of a healthier, I don't know, Rivka, you might have to correct me once we start talking about like a healthier mindset when it comes to running our own businesses or being leaders in the workplace. So Rivka, welcome to Create Magic at Work.
Thank you so much, Amy. I'm so excited to be here. I've been looking forward to this conversation with you. I know we've had many conversations, but I've been really excited to take the deep dive. So thank you so much for having me to speak about something I so love and hold dear to my heart.
Yeah, well, thank you for sharing your insights with everyone in this way. I want to start off with, for everyone listening who's like, Create Magic at Work is an executive coaching firm. You're an executive coach. We're both trained, we're certified in executive coaching. If someone is listening and they're like, I don't even know what an executive coach is, because I think a lot of people do think it's like therapy. This is why this conversation is so good. What would you say to someone listening that's like, I don't even know what executive coaching is?
I think it's a great question. And I think the way to look at it is that there's so many areas and aspects that people need support and can get support in their life, from their relationship to their potential parenting, to their life direction, to dealing with past issues or, professional issues. So there's this vast landscape of when people seek support in their life. There's all these buckets. And executive coaching is really the bucket that hones in on high-level executive professionalism and how can I get support, feedback, thought partnership, inspiration for what I'm dealing with in my professional life on the executive level, on the CEO level, on the C-suite startup level. How could I have support on that journey in that space And what does support for me personally specifically look like?
Yeah, I like the way you describe that. So here goes me. I'm thinking all these thoughts. This is what I see, and what I'm experiencing is executive coaching is becoming more accessible to leaders that are not just C-suite, that are not just high-level leaders. And the way that when I'm coaching a client, aside from my values of showing up and choosing to be present and all of those things that we've learned and staying curious and non-judgmental, I'm always wanting to keep things, I guess if I speaking from an edge walker space, I always want to hone or have the energy of the session be surrounding creative, positive visualization of the future,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
And that's where, to me, that's the difference. And I know we've heard it in the past, and I'll share that with everyone listening if you haven't heard it. Executive coaching or coaching is, to me, more like architecture, building the future. And therapy, from how I describe it to clients quickly, is more like archaeology, kind of digging up the past. And so as a psychotherapist, would you agree with that? And an executive coach?
I would absolutely agree with that. I do think there is that, again, there's so much overlap, but I do feel like the clear distinction is that somebody who is interested in psychotherapy, for example, is most often reaching out to a therapist to alleviate suffering, to work on symptoms, to focus on healing, and it's insight oriented. Somebody who would reach out to a coach is more interested in, I have somewhere I want to go. I have a vision, or I have something I'm building, or it's more action oriented. And I want both support to use my resources to do that. And I want support if and when limitations come up along the way. But it's more action oriented versus insight oriented. So that's another way I talk about it, which I think is a big distinction. And then the other piece I'll just add, when you talk about digging up the past, I feel like what a psychotherapist brings to the table or to the conversation is not only I know how to dig up the past, so to speak, or I know how to engage, I like to use the phrase, historical material that a person went through, but I also understand how that historical material created the building blocks of who this person has become. So it's not only I know how to engage with the content of the past, I understand the developmental aspects of the past, how those experiences created the sense of self, the belief systems, the schemas, the structures, the mindsets, and I'm working in that level. I'm working on that landscape of how the self developed, which to me, I know coaches do pull on that belief systems mindset. It's important for sure. But there's a deeper building blocks, developmental building blocks that psychotherapists have the knowledge as, you gain through your training and through your program, that I do think that's another important difference.
How does one determine who to go to for support? How can we tell if we need to see a therapist over an executive coach to help us through something?
Great. It's a great question. Because there is sometimes some overlap, but there are some significant differences. So maybe I could speak about it from, what some of the issues are that you'd work with in each category. If you're getting some support from a therapist, most likely the things that you want to be putting in that category or paying attention to are any kind of mental health symptoms that would maybe fall into some kind of diagnostic category, such as depression or anxiety, substance use, maybe some self-harming or like suicidal tendencies, symptoms that are affecting your ability to cope and to function in your day-to-day life. And also issues of relationships, issues with your partner or family issues, current issues or past issues, past traumas that you may want to get some support working through. those are some of the things that people would most often seek a therapist to help you navigate your functioning. How well are you functioning? What kind of symptoms are you experiencing? How well or not well are you coping? And often really issues of relationship struggles, relationship difficulties a lot of people come to a therapist to help them sort through that. And the framework of a therapist is also very different than a coach, where you most likely won't have a lot of contact with a therapist unless in case of an emergency in between meetings. They don't tend to text or email a lot. The frame is a little tighter and a little more contained, I'd say, than a coach. And that's just something that's good to know. In terms of seeking an executive coach, usually it's about goals, issues of leadership, whether that's wanting to work on effective communication, leadership presence, relationship building and authenticity within, the company or your workplace, professional goals, confidence, mindset, things that are more about either how can you optimize your role that you're in, and or how could you understand what is limiting or making your role a little more difficult. That a coach will really be your thought partner on that, help you find your own inner wisdom, your resources, your truth. And the framework in coaching tends to be overall, I know these are broad statements, but a little bit looser, a little bit more focused on integration. Here's a specific goal. There's often an action item at the end of a coaching meeting where then the coach will check back in via text or email or some other way. So there's a different working relationship with a coach versus a therapist as well. And again, most of the time, the professionals themselves will help you have that conversation with them, help you get clear, ask really good questions in case you're uncertain yourself which path would be right for you.
And they should be able to, right? Like I'm able to notice in session if like that's maybe you should see a therapist for this, or are you seeking support for this in your life if something comes up in a private session. And I honed in on the word you used, professional. And I'm being a brat and I'm being sarcastic. Yeah, because when no, I'm not going to challenge you. I'm just being like, because when I went through all of the certifications that I've gone through to become an executive coach and to start an executive coaching firm and all of those things, it was when the pandemic started and everything shut down. And there was this huge wave of coaches that kind of arrived. And I was kind of in this space where, am I using you as my therapist now? I'm sorry. I'm like telling you this story. No. And I was kind of in this space. Yeah. I was kind of in this space where everybody was saying they were a coach on Instagram. I'm going to trash Instagram now. Here I go. And I was like, whoa, like nobody had any credentials. And I was like, this is kind of like the Wild West going on over here. So in hearing that story, and I felt kind of like, hey, like people need to check on who this isn't fancy marketing that is going to get you what you need, the support you need. You need to really look into who you're going to work with. Most coaches offer, a consultation visit, a free get to know you introductory visit, 15, 30, 30 minutes, hopefully, where you can see if you're a fit for your needs and if it's a right fit for your support. What is your advice for someone that's in a space that wants some support and how they should look for that with someone, whether it's a coach or a therapist?
I mean, I think it is a great question. And I feel like there's so many things that people have to offer, so much wisdom that they have in their life, good intentions of wanting to support and help other people. And as you said, and they just like hang a shingle. And so sometimes that's valuable, but I think doing your research, really understanding what kind of, education, what kind of program, what did this person go through to be able to do this work, whether it's executive coaching or therapy, what did that consist of? asking really good questions, and not being scared to really prioritize feeling that it's a really good fit for what you need at the moment. And also, a really good coach will help you understand what it is that you need. It will help you articulate, will help you find it. And if it's not here with me, then I think it should be here with this other person. And also, like for me personally, I take a full hour minimum right out the gate to speak with people, to talk about, do a discovery session, and what is it that you're looking for, and what is the change that you're seeking to make. And I think because of my position of being in this blended space of I've been a therapist, now I'm a coach, I'm able to ask certain questions to help somebody really know what is the direction that would be useful for them. And if you don't have that background, you still could make sure that you're being as open as you can about what you are bringing to the table, where you got that training, what support looks like. And, that space and that fit is what's most important for that person.
Yeah, I love that. And just for everyone listening, if you're not sure where to go, what direction to go, reach out to me, reach out to Rivka, and we can point you in the right direction and just offer you some curious questions to help give you the support that you need. That's what we're here for. That's what we do.
Absolutely.
And it
Absolutely.
would be a safe space for sure.
Always. And that's the other thing you made, just to add, is that, again, I used this expression before, front end, back end, which is kind of funny, but I think it also fits, right? That if you're having an experience, at work or being in your leadership position and something is feeling challenging for you and you want some support to work through either that challenge, or I need to get to the next place, either externally or in my leadership, I need to get to the next place and I feel something in the way, I want to know what that is and keep going. Versus, again, in therapy, it's like I feel something in the way and I want to go deep into, like, I use this analogy a lot of the difference between scuba. I don't know if people listening or ocean people, but like scuba and snorkeling, where like you're scuba diving, you're going down and you're exploring down and the depths. And that is more therapy, and coaching is like, you may go down for a minute, hang out and get something relevant, but you're kind of pulling it back up to stay up here on the surface and swim on and swim forward. And so I think it's really what somebody wants too. It's like, if you want that support of we're swimming and I need to keep going and have support that way, people know what they need if that's what they're looking for.
And I think too, like for me, the message for myself, for everyone, is really, it's so hard out there to find somebody that is a really good support person for you, whether it's a therapist or an executive coach. And what I mean by hard is there's so many different specialties that people are trained in. And I think it's important that we educate ourselves and or ask the right questions to who we are reaching out to see if you're a fit. Because I always say, you don't want to go, if we're thinking of the physical body, you don't want to go to a liver specialist if you have a broken foot. It's the same way in this coaching therapy space. And I don't know if we've got to do our work in figuring out who we want to talk to, because it's just no one else is going to do it for us. So yeah, just keep asking the questions, keep staying curious. And if you don't find someone that's a fit for you the first time, there's other people out there that will be a fit for you, that will be able to help you get unstuck, help you move forward. And on that note, I want to pivot to this, because one of your passions is helping founders with their mental well-being, founders of new businesses, startups, all the things. And this is important because a lot of people that are in a W-2 job in the workplace, I think sometimes, I know for me, there's this like dream or like this beautiful picture painted of what it's like if you like leave your corporate job and, take the leap like I did and start your own business. And both sides have their pros and cons. Neither journey is a linear path. We have all sorts of lessons and things that crop up along the way, which is why I'm so passionate about spiritual intelligence in the workplace. What you have found, and I'd love to hear your feedback on this, or what you kind of speak to is when we leave our, not leave, or let's just say we start a business or we're a founder. Sometimes our self-worth becomes overly tied to the business we've started. Thoughts, feedback on what you're seeing with that and how we can help. I've shared so much, so I don't want to, but yeah, what are your thoughts on that?
I mean, my initial thoughts are it's very true, absolutely. And I think there are many things in life, but this is a particularly big one where your sense of self, gets merged with the thing that you're doing, right? In your life, I do think we all experience that. And in general, it's both a challenge and a really good practice to keep your eye on that and learn how to keep some of those things separate, because you're a person and you're attempting to do a big thing or an innovative thing, a visionary thing. And it's going to be a ride. It's going to be all kinds of things. And so if your sense of self is tied to that, it's like you're constantly being dragged around. You just dragged around. So your worth and how you feel about yourself is up, down, all over the place. So having, again, support in managing that is really helpful. And I do feel one of the things that helps with that is stepping out sometimes, which I know is really a hard thing to do. But stepping out so you connect with your sense of self and who you are outside of that focus, outside of that thing you're trying to do. So you come back to a you separate from that. And then you bring that you to the thing you're trying to do. And again, when you're a coach working with people, it's very personal, right? Like some people can really tolerate a lot of being dragged around and up and down until they hit a point where it's like, this is really now affecting me in a way that is limiting and really difficult. Other people, so it's having somebody to help you track where are your own personal lines. How much is that happening? How little is that happening? What helps you get out of that? What helps you then bring your elevated self to the thing you're trying to accomplish, as opposed to like a devalued self? And tracking that, because again, it's very personal. Like what your limit is different than my limit is different than the next person.
Hey everyone, Amy here. Let's talk about work realities for a second. Whether you're dealing with a tough boss, struggling with team miscommunication, feeling stuck in decision making, let's be real, work drama exists and it's exhausting. But it doesn't have to be this way. At Create Magic at Work, we help leaders like you cut through the chaos, build next-level communication skills, and make better, faster decisions without the stress spiral. Whether you're leading a team or just trying to keep your sanity at work, we've got your back. We coach executives and teams like yours to develop interpersonal savvy, drive engagement, and bring your vision and purpose to life, so work actually feels energizing again. Imagine that. More engagement, more productivity, less drama. Our executive coaching team has been in your shoes. We've led teams, navigated workplace challenges, and know what it takes to help you succeed and achieve your goals. Real experience, real talk, and real results. If you're thinking, yes, Amy, we need this at my work, then let's talk. Click the link in the show notes and let us help you and your teams become a high-performing, engaged, and productive force of clarity and calm. I'll see you in the Zoom room. Let's throw the stress and drama out the window. Click on the link in the show notes. I can see how personal it can be because I've experienced it. And when I worked for other companies that wasn't my own, that I created and founded, right? I mean, I just had a flash of when I was a little girl. I went door to door selling candy toffee peanuts to earn, me and my best friend in 6th grade.
Oh my God, I have a visual of those snaps that they slide out. What the?
Yeah. I went door to door selling those to earn money to go to not the school's camp, but to go to summer camp, right, with my friend. And I don't recall being like heartbroken and like my identity was attacked. Let me just, take it that far. When someone told me no, that they didn't want a can of peanuts. We just kept knocking on the doors, right? And so that, to me, that's my analogy for working for another company in sales, or, it's like, okay, like every no leads me to a yes, or, that was that positive mindset that I really learned a lot throughout my career, switch to this founder entrepreneur role, very different, and not prepared for it. If someone tells me no, 2-3 years when I was first starting out, it was like a whole different feeling that I had never experienced. Not like when I was just knocking on the door, selling in my career. And so when you're keying in on this, how your self-worth can be overly tied to your business, really a critical call out that, I am not create magic at work. If someone says no to an executive coaching package from Create Magic at Work, my identity is not being attacked. Like I have to, and I think that's what you're talking about understanding like the separation there. And from that spiritual intelligence, Liz, it's like, oh, my ego got tied into this company I started, and my ego was hurt, meaning like I felt like I had to defend I don't know, I had to defend myself or something when I wasn't. Like, that's not me. This is a separate entity.
Right. Well, it speaks to two things, what you're saying. And I love your story and that analogy. Is perfect. Plus, also, you were probably having fun. You're like, woohoo,
Oh, good point. Yes. Thank you.
It's like,
I got to have more fun
right?
too, right? Yeah.
You're right. Exactly. More fun. And the stakes are lower. When the stakes are high and when your success really depends on many, many people around you, right? And you're reaching out, then it's like who's defining. I think what happens when that self gets completed is that it's what's happening outside of you is defining you, right? Becomes this definition. And again, that's part of the challenge and the resiliency of like, you need to stay resilient and continue to define yourself, continue to reconnect with, why am I doing this? What am I doing? What's exciting? What is fun? I mean, we're joking about it, but it kind of is true, right? And so that you could keep going out. I love you. Now I'm going to use this because I keep going door to door, keep building the thing you're building without letting the response that you're getting externally be the definition of who you are and of your success or of your failure, which again is easy to say, but when you're in it, it's really hard to manage it and to keep your foot like grounded in your own sense of self. And again, that's where support comes in, because you have so much going on, and the higher the stakes are and the more that the pressure is, the harder it is to do all of these things, right? That keep you more healthy, more grounded, right? More positive. So it is this whole other, bucket is the word I often use. It's this whole other bucket that either you or people around you or the supports need to keep your eye on, because it's easy to just get like pulled down. Again, especially when the stakes are high and there's a lot on the table, there's a lot of pressure and a lot of stress.
One of the standout things you just said for me is what's happening outside of you is defining you. And one of the main thing of practicing spiritual intelligence is the ability to make wise and compassionate decisions for yourself and others while maintaining inner peace, even during stressful times. And I believe, after hearing what you just said, one of the ways to maintain inner peace is not to let what is happening outside of you define you. To me, that's a daily practice. And a question we need to ask ourselves: how do I not let what's happening outside of me define me? What's one tip, somebody that we can all practice, where we're like, wow, I am a whole person without this company. I am a whole person without anything. Like I just am.
That's right. Two things come up for what you just said. One is having a way or having a practice or having a reminder that you just are. Your value, your worth, your esteem is built into who you are. right? It is just the nature of who you are, which definitely does take us down another interesting fun, which we could maybe have another conversation of spiritual, work and sense of where does sense of self even come from? How do you define that? I am of value and I'm bringing this whatever fill in the blank out into the world. And so the response I get from the world may affect me, but it doesn't define me. And I think that is a very subtle but really important difference because we're going to be affected. And I think it's important to let ourselves be affected, be present to that, but also not get mired in it, which then it becomes like, oh, it takes us down. It becomes our self-definition, right? So one of the things that I like to help people with is understanding, what is their internal landscape? What's their terrain? And how do they respond to the different things externally so that when things happen, you're like, oh, that's just me responding in this way that I know about myself. Oh, that's just this part of myself doing what I know it always does. It's like having the knowledge of your internal landscape and the way you typically respond to things, right? Can help you then just, again, like keep it on the surface and not let it, take you down significantly. But again, it's a self-knowledge that helps you stay more grounded.
Yeah, I really like that. I really like, okay, yeah, like acknowledging like this is affecting me. Like, I'm bummed about this, or, oh, wow, I'm really, even on the excitement side, like I am so excited we closed this contract, or I'm so excited we get to work with these amazing leaders on this executive, coaching journey. But neither one of those things define who I am. And thank you for helping all of us cultivate that awareness today. This might affect me, but this doesn't define me.
And I have one thing I just want to add to that, Amy, that just came up, laid it out like that so perfectly, is that how do you get from this affects me but doesn't define me, or this affects me and it does define me? Right in that space, right there, in my experience, lies the very, very famous, and we all have aspects of it in different ways, inner critic. And the inner critic voice and the way we talk to ourselves about what happens to us or around us in the world is largely part of how we get from, wow, I'm disappointed, or I don't feel great about that, or I have feelings, to I am a bad person. What is wrong with you? Why didn't you? Like this kind of inner criticism, inner judge, inner attacking. That voice, that part of ourselves, which again, we all have to varying degrees, often is what's happening in our inner world that then creates that, oh, this thing defines me. This happened, I'm not worthy. This happened, I'm not smart enough. This happened, I don't have it together. I'm not good enough. I'm not fill in the blank. Any thinking that looks like that is you're in this is defining me mode. If you're in, wow, I feel disappointed, I feel whatever, I feel something, then you're just in feeling mode. You're just being affected. You can feel it and you can move on. It's not like hooking something much deeper about the person you are. And so I think that mechanism is something I think most coaches are aware of. A lot of therapists do that work, just that work in particular, because we believe those voices and then we're letting lots of things define us that make it hard to move forward and create what we want to create.
Yeah, really good call out. Really good call out. Watching for the inner critic, having an awareness when it arises, and not believing everything we think about ourselves in particular, and possibly questioning it and reframing when that comes up, and really partnering with someone that can help you recognize that is really important. Oh my God, I feel like we barely scratched the surface in this conversation.
There's a lot.
I know. But this was so great. I'm going to pull a card for everyone, just a message. And I really hope everyone got some more clarity kind of around these. This card just keeps poking out at me. So I'm just going to grab it here. Oh, okay. So we got generosity is the message. So this is a message from the universe, from the Create Magic at Work journal prompt card deck for your career and for the workplace. And The message today is generosity. You've definitely been generous in your knowledge and wisdom, Rivka. The affirmation for everyone, helps with the inner critic, especially in competitiveness, is the affirmation is, I celebrate the success of others, knowing there is plenty for us all. I celebrate the success of others, knowing there is plenty for us all. That affirmation helps us move out of that scarcity mindset, right? There is enough for everyone. I celebrate your success. There's plenty for all of us. So, this is a cool question, especially for someone that is a therapist and a coach. How can someone truly give and receive in a balanced way?
That's such a good question.
I'm dying to hear your answer because I need to hear it myself. 30 seconds, go. No, I'm just kidding.
It's a really good question. It's so personal, but sometimes I do think in imagery and images. And when you ask that, those scales, the produce scales that go like you put it on one side and it goes this way, it goes this way. It's like you want your scales to sometimes there's situations where you give more because you're consciously choosing to, right? But you want to keep those scales kind of balanced. And I think both giving when it feels like it's energizing for you, when it is uplifting and heart-centered, and when it starts to feel, draining, there's boundaries that you need to put in place, right? And then also feeling worthy of receiving and feeling like I deserve to receive. And it's this beautiful dialectic. It's this back and forth. It's this conversation between giving and receiving. But I like that scale because sometimes images help me. Like, if you're over indexed and you're overtaxed and you're just like, you're strained, you can feel it. That you're stretched in a way that's not really good for you. So how do you pull back? How do you create boundaries? How do you create limits? How do you give when it's energizing? And if you're not, you're consciously choosing to stretch yourself, but then you're coming back to. So again, I think it's being intentional. It's a good word to use, being really intentional about that.
Yeah, I like that. I think if we feel depleted from over giving, I like that distinction of I'm feeling like I'm over giving. However, I'm consciously choosing, if I'm consciously and intentionally choosing to overgive or to give in this moment, even though the scales are going to be a little tipped, I own that a little bit more. And I feel like I hold on to my energy a little bit more in that. I think where another thing that came up for me while you were sharing that is once we recognize these boundaries and these limits, like, no, I cannot be available to this right now, or, whatever that is you're telling yourself, it might feel uncomfortable for you if you're used to overgiving. So the uncomfortable feeling is okay, right?
Yes. It's not only the uncomfortable is okay, the uncomfortable in almost in a way means you're on the right track. If it's uncomfortable or if you're doing something that's not familiar to you, you're like, oh, that's good. Because the familiar, again, is like, oh, I'm comfortable here, fish in water. This is how I do, right? So challenging some of those ways is good. And it's not bad to be uncomfortable or be in an unfamiliar space. And just to circle back to your very first question about executive coaching, all of these things we're talking about, how the self is organized and self-worth and inner critic and, boundaries and relationships, when you're in your professional environments and building something at, high levels and, surrounded by a lot of efforts on being productive, all of these things are going to get highlighted. Like all of these ways of being get highlighted. So to be able to understand yourself, your psychological self, and the patterns in you that show up in your workspace and know how to use that to grow and to navigate better, work outcomes, to me is such a great channel for self-growth and development. It's wonderful.
Yeah. Well, this has been an incredible deep dive into therapy and coaching and the inner critic and all the things. I mean, my biggest takeaways are what's happening outside of you isn't defining you, and incorporating playfulness and this is affecting me, but this doesn't define me, all of those things. So Rivka, thank you so much for joining us today and for sharing your insights with all of the Create Magic at Work community. If people want to connect with you, how can they connect with you? We'll have everything in the show notes, but if you want to mention anything, feel free.
Yeah, fantastic. Really the simplest way is you could just contact me through my website, through LinkedIn, through email. You post the things, but my email, rivkageo@gmail.com. Just send me an email. I'm available, for anything, long-term work, short-term work, consultations, helping you find the right fit, whatever is needed. Happy to support. Yeah.
Yeah. Reach out to Rivka on LinkedIn, connect with her. She shares some really insightful posts as well. So Rivka, thank you for sending some magic to everyone today.
Appreciate it. Thank you too, Amy, for all you do.
I want to thank each and every one of you for coming back every week to listen to a new episode of Create Magic at Work and really helping to support and advocate for healthy leaders, workplaces, and lives for all of us. If you want any information on how to connect with me, click on the link in the show notes. You'll get access to all of the social media links for Create Magic at Work. Stay following along for more amazing episodes where we help you improve productivity and profitability in the workplace and decrease stress. Sending magic to everyone, and see you next time.